I killed my lover with my own hands. On the day Henry was arrested, he could have easily crossed the border and escaped, but I went into the woods alone and chased him relentlessly. It was also me who, without hesitation, dropped my weapon and followed him unarmed when he crossed the border. At that time, Henry on the other side had a gun. There was still one last bullet in the gun. He pointed the gun at me. The always calm and arrogant man suddenly had red-rimmed eyes. "Matthew, are you sure you want to push me to the end? I've treated you well in the past." The light filtered through the gaps in the woods, falling on him and reflecting in my eyes. For a moment, I was in a daze. I recalled every little thing in the past. The moment I fell for him against my better judgment. Even the overstepping under the pretext of completing the mission. They were like fine silver needles, piercing me deeply. But in the end, I suppressed my compassion. I shook my head. Stop struggling in vain. 96,007. You can't escape unless I'm dead. For this case, the organization helped me go undercover for 3 whole years and spent a lot of manpower and resources. As their important informant, I couldn't just let it go and ruin all my efforts. So that day, I fearlessly pressed on, trying to use my life to get him arrested. Even if I'm shot full of holes, I'll still hang on by a thread to clap the handcuffs on him and arrest him. Henry knew what I was up to. He kept his finger tight on the trigger, but he never pulled it. Finally, we were just a step away. Suddenly, he turned the gun around and pointed it at his own heart. Then he reached up and covered my left ear. He gave me a helpless smile and said, "You win, baby." There was a loud bang. Wild geese flew past the iron railing, and the setting sun was as red as blood. Excessively scalding liquid blurred my vision. It also completely dyed everything I could see red. I woke up from the nightmare. I sprang up, wiped the sweat from the corners of my eyes, gasped heavily a few times, and adjusted my breathing. That day, Henry fell in front of me and died on the spot. He had studied medicine and was always a good shooter, hitting the target precisely, right in the heart. I never thought he would be so radical. I thought he would at most fire a shot at me to vent his anger and scare me, because he clearly didn't deserve to die, because he knew I would wait for him. But he did it anyway. By the time I realized and tried to save him, Henry had already stopped breathing. The scene under the sunset that day has since become a nightmare that haunted me for months, playing on a loop. After taking out a can of ice-cold beer from the fridge and chugging it down, I shook out a few sleeping pills from the bottle and swallowed them dry all at once. I've got work tomorrow. I can't stay up too late and doze off when I'm supposed to be working. But the alcohol didn't get me drunk, and the sleeping pills didn't work either. I tossed and turned until midnight. I wanted to get up and have a smoke, but suddenly I couldn't move. There was a strange rustling sound under the covers. The next second, a pair of big, calloused hands suddenly wrapped around my waist, pressing down hard on me. I was so dazed from the familiar touch of the kiss that I barely managed to open my eyes. There was a man in front of me, breathing heavily, his eyes full of desire. It was Henry. That night, Henry clung to me all night, over and over again. I couldn't move and could only let him torment and bully me, running amok. When I woke up the next day, I felt like crap, scared half to death by the ghost. My body ached like crazy, but there wasn't a single mark on it. I couldn't tell if it was a dream or reality. I could only drag my heavy body out to work, but luckily, the job assigned by the community today was to help an old lady in the next street rescue her cat. I silently took on the task without saying much. Old Lee, who passed by, was surprised. He shook his head and sighed. "Hey kid, you're not complaining about being made to do odd jobs today. You've really improved." I just smiled and didn't say a word. After all, I couldn't exactly say that I'd been tortured by a ghost in my dream all night and was too exhausted to do real work, could I? If I really said that, people around would send me to a mental hospital, and my boss would come personally to fire me. The cat in the next alley had climbed onto the tiled roof. Emma was stomping her feet anxiously on the stone bridge, afraid that the cat would slip and fall into the rushing river. Cats are afraid of water. When I arrived, I told her to calm down. Then I climbed up using a ladder and slowly approached the cat. It got scared and accidentally kicked off a tile when it lost its balance. There were no onlookers below. Seeing that it didn't fall, I let out a sigh of relief and tried to soothe it as I got closer again. White Cream realized I meant no harm and jumped into my arms, staying still obediently, but as I held it and started to come back down the ladder, a kid threw a firecracker onto the roof, scaring White Cream out of the blue. It bounced out of my arms and landed safely on the ground, but accidentally bumped into my ladder. I tilted backward crazily, losing my balance. By the time I realized what was happening and tried to bounce like a cat, it was too late. Everything happened so suddenly, just like the blood-red sunset and the burst of blood that day. In that instant, I thought my head was going to crack open in a bit. Actually, in that moment, it seemed that I lost the will to live. But the next second, suddenly, a gust of wind swept past my ears. An invisible force lifted me up and gently slammed me onto the bluestone slab. When I came to my senses and opened my eyes, there were only a bunch of old folks crowding around. They were making a big fuss as they lifted me up and wanted to send me to the nearby hospital. In the end, this whole thing ended when I jumped up and did 2 somersaults, putting an end to their good-heartedness. Actually, I only landed on my butt. Oliver in the community heard Emma's exaggerated description. He firmly believed that I was injured but just putting on a brave face. So he approved 2 days leave for me on the grounds of work-related injury. I wanted to explain, but he wouldn't listen. In the past, I definitely have been stubborn as a mule. I'd never go home as long as I could still stand. But Oliver sighed and said, "I've noticed that you've been out of it all day. You even fell off the roof. If you really have something important going on, I can't trust you with any serious tasks. Can I?" I was stunned for a moment and then slowly realized what he meant. Finally, I nodded, picked up the thermos on the table, and went home. I sat alone in silence until late at night. No socializing, no internet addiction. The unstable undercover life in the past 3 years has made me develop a habit of being constantly vigilant and not caring about any entertainment events. But, except for Henry, that faker who pretends to be straight is a high-ranking and powerful guy. After that one time, he always drags me into this mess with him. I was worried about his safety, but he grabbed my waist and punished me, saying, "You're not being serious." He always loves to ask, "Matthew, do you still have the time to think about other bullshit now?" Then he'd coax me, "Baby, lift your hips up. How can we do it if you're like this?" Henry is such a hypocrite. Usually, he's so cold and serious, and he doesn't blink an eye when killing someone. But once he takes off his clothes, he immediately turns into a greedy beast, extremely rough, and capable of doing anything in bed. Apart from me, no one in the organization knows about his crazy side. This relationship started from an accidental encounter after drinking and has lasted for nearly 2 years. Suddenly, I fucking missed those days. But when I got up and wanted to have a smoke to calm my nerves, my body inexplicably couldn't move again, stiff in bed. Soon I heard a familiar voice in my ear. "Baby, what position do you want to try tonight? Do you want me to support you on top? Or do you want to lie there obediently and be?" I swallowed hard. The Henry in front of me was so real that I couldn't think and almost turned into an idiot. By the time I came to my senses, he had already grabbed my slender waist and bent down to kiss me passionately. This pervert, even after death, he was still as rough and skillful as before. He whispered in my ear, "Baby, do you miss me after such a long time apart? It's been so long. Are you feeling good now? Happy?" I was so dazed that my hearing was a bit scattered. How could I possibly answer? Afterward, I jolted upright in bed. It was already late morning outside. The down comforter was suddenly yanked off. I still had my pajamas on and was completely dry. Apart from the soreness below my waist, there were no other signs of anything unusual. But Henry's soothing voice still echoed in my ears. "I'm a person who's scared of ghosts." That very day, I got up and gathered a bunch of things Henry liked to go pay my respects to him. Henry had no relatives during his lifetime. The only 2 brothers he had. One ended up in jail because of me, and the other one is me. I'm the only one left to erect a tombstone for him and pay my respects. I carved his tombstone myself. The higher-ups wouldn't let me do anything out of line, and my colleagues kept a close eye on me to prevent me from doing something stupid. So, after finishing my work report, I took my annual leave and spent 3 full months carving this tombstone. Old friend, Henry, I sat in front of the out-of-the-way tombstone. I placed a bottle of 5-star Great Wall wine, a bunch of baby's breath, a basket of fruits, and a pack of his favorite yellow Crane Tower cigarettes beside it. Then, while burning paper money, I questioned him. Now that you're down there, why can't you just behave? Since you were so determined to die back then, don't mess up my chances of finding someone new and stop bothering me. A tear dropped on the back of my hand, burning my skin numb, my throat tightened, and every word that came out felt like a blade scraping. Henry, I've burned a lot of money and a lot of the things you liked for you. So, you should be okay down there. Don't keep thinking about getting revenge on me and scaring me. It'll only shorten your afterlife. Also, from now on, I won't come to see you anymore, buddy. I've taken on a new undercover mission. It's in the Triangle area. Chances are I won't come back. When Oliver heard about this, he almost smashed up my workstation. Matthew, you're only 26. What the fuck are you in such a hurry to get yourself killed for? His eyes red with anger. He grabbed me by the collar and barked the question at me. If you're so eager to die, how am I supposed to face your brother? How can I have the nerve to see him when I'm underground? I turned my face away, not knowing what to say. My brother died at the age of 26. After this year, I'll be older than he was. Before he died in the line of duty, he entrusted me, a 15-year-old at the time, to his colleague Oliver, asking him to take good care of me. Oliver has always done an excellent job, treating me like family, but I went off the rails and voluntarily got involved with criminals. After graduating from college, I managed to become an informant and spent 3 whole years undercover in Henry's organization. 5 months ago, I finally managed to get out and skate. Now, just because I wasn't exposed before, I want to jump into another den of vipers. I understand Oliver's anger, but I still insisted. Brother, I want to do this. Ever since I was a kid, if I set my mind to something, I'll do it. Oliver knew how stubborn I could be. After a 5-minute standoff, he finally gave in. He clenched his fist and thumped me hard on the shoulder. If your brother comes to me in my dreams to give me grief, I'll give you hell and beat the crap out of you, you little shit. So, just like last time, Oliver choked up a bit. Come back alive. Got it. Sure thing. I forced a smile and nodded. The good mindset I've developed over the years as an undercover agent easily got me through the psychological assessment with Oliver. But actually, from the moment Henry died right in front of me, I've always wanted to end this meaningless life. The night my application was approved, Henry came to see me again. This time, he was really angry. He pressed against my waist and bombarded me with a bunch of nonsense questions. What do you mean by old friend, sweetheart? Do good friends do this kind of thing? I broke down in tears and tried desperately to shake my head, but I couldn't move a muscle. Henry pinched my burning cheeks and smiled again. Seems like you really miss me, sweetheart. You want to come down and accompany me so soon. Why didn't you say you loved me when I was alive? Ha! This cold laugh made my whole body tremble uncontrollably. In the organization, it's common knowledge. When Henry laughs like that, it's a sign of trouble brewing. In the wee hours of the morning, sure enough, I was on the verge of kicking the bucket in bed. Just before I passed out, I was forcibly woken up and warned, with someone gripping my waist. Matthew, go and change the words on the tombstone for me tomorrow. I'm not your old friend, and I don't want to be some kind of sworn enemy or brother. I'm your late husband. Remember that, baby? Another night of being taken advantage of and getting less than 2 hours of sleep. The next day, with dark circles under my eyes, I was getting ready for the special training process, and unsurprisingly, I was sent back. Your mental state is extremely poor. On my way home, instead of changing the inscriptions on the tombstone, I went to a feng shui master and got a talisman that wouldn't harm ghosts but would keep them at bay. When I was about to go to sleep, I carried it with me warily, but late at night, once again, couldn't move, and there was that familiar hot breath in my ear. Henry took out the talisman from my pajama pocket, easily tore it up and crushed it. He sneered contemptuously, "Baby, believing this? Could you be any dumber?" The talisman was fake and useless. I was tortured again all night and took a nap during the day. On the third day, I scattered some glutinous rice in the room and set the TV screen to show William's handsome photo. But that night, Henry punched the TV to pieces and stepped on the glutinous rice to get onto my bed. He grabbed my neck and said angrily with a laugh, "Matthew, you'd better pray that the guy on TV jumps out and saves you tonight. Otherwise, even if you pass out, I'll keep waking you up until dawn. I know why Henry is doing this. It's the same as Oliver. He just doesn't want me to go and get myself killed. This damned ghost. He just won't stop causing trouble even after death. He's still haunting me. In desperation, I could only leave him a letter before going to sleep. To my late husband, from Henry. The following content is quite cliched. Nothing but threats. I can skip the special training, and I can also give up the colleagues for the rendezvous. Even if I have to do it as an ordinary citizen, I'll still squeeze in there alone to gather intelligence. It's just that I'll be more likely to end up dead that way. That night, I slept soundly and didn't have a single dream all night. But the next day, snowflakes drifted in through the window. My heart was suddenly filled with bitterness and loneliness, and a dull ache spread. Later, I entered the training camp and never dreamed of Henry again. Those absurd and illusory dreams seemed like they belonged to a bygone era. 5 months passed in a flash. After the special training ended, Oliver collected my luggage for me and personally saw me off for a while. The train soon pulled into the terminal station. The person who came to pick me up was very low-key. He didn't say much along the way and led me to the dock to do hard labor. It's the same for all the newbies at the bottom. The high-ups here are some masked men, except for their second-in-command. Few people have seen their true faces. Benjamin, who was talkative and friendly, was moving things while gossiping with me. All matters related to the tasks in our organization are fully handled by the second-in-commands of each branch. Hey, you're new here, so you don't know. They're terrifying. Especially that one who loves to wear black clothes. Without stopping my hard work, I asked with a smile in the local dialect, "What's so terrifying about that guy?" TSK. Benjamin frowned deeply. He's the trusted second-in-command of the boss of the main family. He's extremely cruel when using torture. We all call him the Death Envoy. I paused in my movements. A familiar figure flashed through my mind instantly, and I couldn't help shaking my head. Well, that is really scary. In the 3rd week after I came here, I quickly worked my way up from a cement-carrying worker at the dock and got into the organization. I was now among a group of guys who had gone through devil-like training. Fighting in groups to clear places was a common thing on weekdays. Because I was more skilled than my peers in all aspects, I caught the attention of several second-in-commands of the gangs, and they thought highly of me. Even Benjamin exclaimed, "Brother Daniel, you're really a streetwise guy since you were 5. You've been promoted so fast. You're truly one of a kind." I forced a smile in response. Daniel was a con man who had been in jail for fighting. His shady resume was flawless. But compared to Henry's organization back then, everything here was going too smoothly. I've been on edge all the time, never letting my guard down. After all, that Death Envoy still hasn't shown up yet. I was sent to the casino to collect debts again. I played the ruthless thug of a lone shark boss and led the way to surround the debtor gambler's house. The alley was damp and dilapidated. There was no way for him to escape. Finally, he gave up and slumped on the ground, looking half dead. No matter how the thugs beat him, he refused to pay back the money. Damn it, cut off his hand. Brother Lucas, who was leading this operation, was furious. He took out a butcher's knife and threw it in front of me. I quickly picked it up, and as a test, I split a moldy wooden stake beside him. Then I shouted angrily, "Are you going to pay back or not?" The gambler didn't even blink an eye and remained unmoved. Brother Lucas told me to cut. I clenched the knife handle tightly, and my palms were full of sweat. But before I could even lift it, suddenly, the creaky wooden door started to shake. The blood-covered gambler on the ground suddenly opened his eyes. Just before the door was pushed open, he got up and shouted, "Run outside quickly." Brother Lucas immediately realized what was going on. I was quicker than him. I rushed to the door first to block the exit, grabbed the little girl, rushed downstairs, and stuffed her into the old man's pile of broken cardboard on the first floor. When the others rushed down, they looked completely confused. "Damn it, where is she?" It was clearly the voice of that pig's daughter just now. Brother Lucas grabbed my collar and said, "Daniel, are you sure you can't even outrun a 5-year-old little girl?" I showed them the bloody wound on my palm, which was pierced by a dart. "Sorry, she's good at using hidden weapons. I lost her because of that mistake." According to the gang's rules, I took my punishment and was temporarily kicked out of the inner circle. Then I went back to the dock. Benjamin sighed regretfully. You're overqualified for this. I just smiled and didn't agree with him. After working with Benjamin for a week, he got promoted. I was left alone at the dock, carrying cement. The salty and humid sea breeze made me feel so tired. 2 days later, Benjamin suddenly rushed back, all excited, and told me that Brother Lucas needed more hands. Brother Daniel, don't mess up this time. Do a good job. The note he stuffed into my hand was very short, just 2 lines. Midnight tonight, on the high seas, by the cliff, kill an undercover fugitive. I was stunned. I kind of knew it was a trap, but I had to go and meet that undercover. Late at night, the sea breeze howled by the cliff, even saltier and more humid than at the dock. Daniel, you're here pretty fast. Brother Lucas got out of the SUV, dragging a man with his mouth taped shut, and stepped on him like a footstool. Do you know him? He's the undercover who got me into the dock and met me for the first time. I tightened my grip on the pistol hidden in my pocket. Pretending to be terrified, I said, Lucas, I shouldn't have been so stupid as to sneak into the organization through my cousin. Bang! A bullet whizzed past the weeds by my feet, and the gun that fired it was pressed against my colleague's head. Don't downplay it. You clearly let that girl go. Brother Lucas loaded his pistol. And you were recruited by him. I froze in the act of drawing my gun. Given this distance and the pistol's range, I had no chance of saving anyone. Even if I drew my gun to fight back, I'd just get shot to pieces. But luckily, after a 3-second standoff, Brother Lucas soon revealed his real intention. You've outshone your superiors. Although I found an excuse to kick you out, the big shots still mention you often. What do you think we should do? I've heard that you, Daniel, are very loyal and value family. I understood what he meant, so I loosened my grip on the gun. If I jump off here, Lucas will let my cousin go, right? Your cousin is an old employee. I never wanted to kill him anyway. I smiled in relief. Okay, I hope Lucas keeps his promise and doesn't harm the innocent. The sea breeze howled. A pebble fell from the cliff edge, sank into the churning sea, and disappeared without even a ripple. I turned around and was ready to follow that pebble down. But in the second before I jumped, my collar suddenly tightened sharply. You're just gonna throw away the first-class merit that cost my life? The raging wind in my ears was blocked by a warm hand. I froze in place. The moment I met Henry's cold gaze, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. A ghost? He gasped roughly. His fierce and cold gaze quickly turned to the opposite side, making Lucas, who was about to draw his gun, back off immediately. Second in charge. Why are you here? The boss sent me. Henry pulled me back from the cliff to his side. I'm taking this guy back for interrogation myself. Do you think you can decide his life or death on your own? It wasn't a ghost. My mind suddenly went blank. It wasn't until I was taken into an iron factory by Henry in a daze that my hearing gradually came back a little. Why is Black Mirror bringing someone back again? This new guy must have done something really bad. Look at how angry Black Mirror is. Black Mirror is notorious for his harsh torture. The guy he dragged in with that look last time screamed all night, "TSK, TSK. This kid's gonna be in for a world of pain tonight. He's gonna be howling like a dog." There was a loud bang. The gossip of those lackeys was completely cut off. Henry pinned me against the door, grabbed my neck, and then kissed me impatiently. The long-awaited kiss wasn't gentle. It was even rough, a vengeful kind of rubbing. I raised my hand to punch him, but I was caught off guard and had my hand grabbed and pinned above my head. A coppery taste spread in my mouth. Kill me, and then beat me, bite me, and even desecrate my corpse. Henry finally let go, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and laughed out of anger. Baby, you're something else. My oxygen-deprived mind was extremely clear at this moment. Scared sober. Henry, what on earth? Before my hoarse question could finish, he grabbed my hand and placed it on his chest. Thump, thump. In the endless darkness, the warmth from my palm spread all the way, even reaching the corners of my eyes. There were no bullets in that gun. The organization that was taken down was just a front for the main family to gather information. This is our real territory right under your feet. I was struck like lightning, and my palm bled from clenching it tightly. I couldn't help but roar. Then why didn't you just go along with him and kill me? You knew all right. He gently wiped the moisture from the corner of my eye with his fingertip. But the next second, he pinned me down on a metal table, leaned over, and whispered almost in my ear, "Haven't seen you for a few months. Remember to scream louder later. The more miserable and exaggerated, the better. Got it, baby? Matthew, trust me this once." The stench of blood on the metal table hit me right in the head. Henry had me pinned down, gripping the back of my neck, whispering in my ear non-stop, and forcing me to make noises. I'm always good at those ear-piercing screams used to cover up the intimate sounds. After a whole night, my throat was hoarse. My body was covered in bruises and red marks. With a bit of blood on me, I looked just like someone who'd been tortured and interrogated. Henry clearly realized this. When I could barely move, he pulled out a sharp blade and calmly sliced it across his own forearm. A really clean cut, and in an instant, blood splashed everywhere. My pupils shrank sharply. I tried to get up but was held down. I could only let the gushing blood splash evenly on me as I listened to him mutter, "From today on, you're Michael. I got you out of jail some time ago and gave you a new identity to work inside, and Matthew died in that brawl. Michael was one of his most trusted brothers and was in jail right now to cover for him." I understood what he meant. I pursed my lips and nodded. "One." But just as he was about to leave, I suddenly stood up and grabbed the corner of his clothes. "Henry, there's still a way out." He froze for a moment. He turned back, casually flashed a smile, and pried my fingers off one by one. "There's no way out for me, baby. Who would have thought I was doomed to fall for you in this lifetime?" The news about Black Mirror torturing a new recruit spread like wildfire throughout the organization. TSK. That screaming last night and all that blood on the floor. It was like a freaking slaughterhouse. He's lucky to be alive and not half dead. Rumor has it that Black Mirror got nothing out of him in the end, so they kept him alive. These words even reached the doc. After hearing the news, Benjamin rushed over in a hurry. When he saw Henry, he gave a sudden jolt and waved at me like a timid quail. I limped over. "Brother Daniel, the medicine." When he saw the bruises on my arm, he turned pale and murmured, "It's all my fault. I didn't know Black Mirror would be there that day. I sent you into the lion's den." I smiled and told him it wasn't his fault. Just as I was about to take it, another hand snatched it first. "Is this your new friend in the organization?" "Yeah, last month." Benjamin didn't dare to say a word. Henry forced a smile and praised me for being good at making friends. Then he frowned and had Benjamin driven out of a 5-mile radius. TSK, this jealous guy. Under the pretext of being an old acquaintance, I rightfully tagged along with Henry, just like the previous 3 years. On the surface, he was a businessman, going in and out of clubs. I acted as his bodyguard and never left his side. When there were shady deals, I could also be his right-hand man and handle things for him. None of the gang members in the organization were dissatisfied or raised protests, because it was widely rumored outside. They said I was punished every day for all sorts of minor mistakes. I was locked in a room by Black Mirror every night, and the sounds of whips and fights could be heard. They often gave me sympathetic looks. They thought Black Mirror was deliberately picking on me because he was jealous of my abilities, but didn't want to let me go, so he kept me around to abuse me like this. My former superior, Brother Lucas, also heard about this. The next time I ran into him was at the casino. Henry was inside discussing business and didn't let me in. Bored, I squatted by the roadside playing with pebbles. Brother Lucas showed up with a bunch of his guys and surrounded me. He sneered. "Daniel, do you regret it? I heard that ever since you left our Tiger Gang, you've been getting beaten up by Black Mirror at the main base every day. How about I give you another chance to come back? Our boss thinks highly of you." I stopped prodding the stones with the twig in my hand. Suddenly, I remembered what happened yesterday when Henry found out that Benjamin had tried to persuade me to go back to the docks. The inhumane torture I endured that night. Couldn't help but shiver. I stood up, took a step back, and forced a smile. "No thanks, Lucas. Our boss is great." He hesitated, then finally said, "Ungrateful." I turned around. Henry had been standing around the corner for God knows how long. He forced a smile. "You've finally learned to trust me, baby." Covered his mouth, forcing a fake smile. I said, "Boss, shut up." That night, Henry took me back to a villa and told me, This is my real home. The 3 years he spent drifting in Jiangqing were just the most insignificant 3 years in his long life. It was just like the base I thought I'd destroyed and the great feat I thought I'd accomplished. They were just their most insignificant pretense. I never really knew him, nor did I understand them. Half a month later, Henry took me to a nightclub. It was an internal dinner that was originally planned to be attended within 2 years, but he got me in just 2 months. Why, boss? Just before stepping onto the cruise ship, I grabbed the corner of Henry's clothes and hesitated. You should know that once you let me get in touch with that person, there's no turning back. Henry stopped in his tracks and put away his gun. He raised an eyebrow casually and said, "Yeah, I'm willing to take the risk." The evidence he gave me was verified to be true, so he could have just turned against them and turned himself in on his own. But he chose to hand over this top-notch merit for offsetting his guilt to me and guided me step by step to get in touch with the core. Sometimes I really want to crack open his skull and see what's going on in his head. The nightclub was bustling with people, and glasses were clinking everywhere. I followed Henry, networking skillfully and getting to know quite a few high-level people. They're all tough nuts to crack. As soon as they met me, they kept probing me, trying to get to the bottom of things. But with Henry around, no one dared to make a move openly or show their dissatisfaction. After going around, Henry impatiently dodged the crowd and took me to a private room on the 2nd floor. To meet the boss, an old man named Sue, with gray hair and leaning on a cane. His back as he stood in front of the French window admiring the night view was that of a man on the verge of death. I heard that he has no sons, only a biological daughter and an adopted son. Henry calls him Godfather when reporting recent official business. James didn't deliberately drive me away, nor did he question my identity. Apparently, he believed the outside rumors, but I hadn't even let out a sigh of relief. When I was about to maintain a sense of boundaries and offered to leave, all of a sudden, a cold gun was pressed against the back of my head. Henry's expression changed suddenly, but the moment he saw the person behind me, he just frowned slightly and withdrew his hand that was reaching for his gun. He said impatiently, "Sophia, put the gun down." I stiffened my body. Henry had mentioned before that he had a lost younger sister in the orphanage. Presumably, she is the daughter James had late in life and the underworld heiress of the Sue family. Through the reflection of the French window, I saw a girl in punk style, with a lollipop in her mouth, shake her head and pout, saying, "I won't. Brother, you've finally returned to the main family. Why don't you stay with me all day and are so close to this guy?" Henry explained helplessly that it was for work. Sophia didn't put away her gun. She cried and threw a tantrum, pestering her dad to assign all of Henry's work to others. She's 20 years old, but has the mentality of a teenager. James wasn't annoyed. He just treated the loaded gun as a toy and joked with his daughter, saying it wouldn't work. Henry's face turned dark. It was me frantically giving him looks that made him hold back the impulse to draw his gun. All right. Finally, James pushed the gun away, but he didn't let Henry go. "Your brother has something important to do. Go play by yourself first. I'll let him come and accompany you in a couple of days." Sophia was originally reluctant to compromise, but Henry's gloomy mood was too intimidating. Finally, she gritted her teeth, stood on tiptoe and grabbed my collar. "I can leave. You guys talk about your important stuff, but let him play with me." "No." "Yes." I quickly cut off Henry's words. "Boss, you guys get busy first. I'll accompany the young lady." Sophia took me to the deck of the cruise ship. She got straight to the point. "You know I have a crush on him, right?" I gave a knowing smile and said, "Yeah, I do." Otherwise, Henry wouldn't be so reluctant to mention his sister. Every time someone brings her up, he'd just say, "Forget it. He's destined to marry me in this lifetime." Sophia twirled a lock of her hair as it fluttered in the wind. "I set my eyes on him the year he joined our organization at 19. He didn't join your family's organization until he was 19? So what? Anyway, Brother Henry has always been focused on his career and not into girls. He climbed up the ranks like there was no tomorrow as soon as he joined our organization. What else could it be for but to marry me? I was a bit stunned as Sophia talked about Henry's past. I took a glass of wine from a passing waiter and took a sip without thinking. He joined the organization at 19. This was news to me. Henry is only 29 this year, so took him 10 years to reach his current position. Then why is he giving it all up now, just when he's so close to success? I still couldn't figure it out, but then, my body suddenly went weak and started to burn up in the gentle breeze. There was something wrong with the wine. By the time I realized it, Sophia had also turned her head, raised her eyebrows, and clapped her hands. A bunch of bodyguards popped out and dragged me into a private room. She looked down at me with a smirk and said, "Didn't I say I hate it when he, who has no interest in women, gets close to men? Daniel, just get a bit dirty and make my brother hate you and stay away from you." All electronic devices were confiscated. Sophia sat outside the private room for 20 minutes but still didn't see the scene she wanted. Because I was holding an extremely sharp dagger, those big, burly bodyguards couldn't get close to me at all. If they got close, they'd die. One stab would be fatal. Getting impatient with what she saw, she simply had someone light a few incense sticks in the room to increase the aphrodisiac dosage. She spoke through the monitor, "Just accept your fate, Daniel. No one's gonna come to save you." I bit my tongue and couldn't help grabbing the blade with my bare hands. In the hot and stuffy air, it felt like there were hundreds of corpse beetles wriggling on my body, but this wasn't enough to break my will. Pain makes people sober. When Sophia was furious and wanted to send more people to force the issue, Henry finally saw the text message I'd blindly sent and rushed over regardless of everything. The bullet whizzed past Sophia's hair. He almost gritted his back teeth. "Open the door and get out of here." That night, it was the first time Sophia had seen Henry so angry and full of killing intent. She understood everything. Henry couldn't take the drugged me home. He found a hotel on the way and they had a wild night in agony. It was mixed with the smell of blood and the gaudy incense. He acts as the antidote, but the medicine was too potent. Its effects lasted until the afternoon of the next day before showing signs of subsiding. With great difficulty, I opened my eyes on the second night, forcing myself out of bed. I unexpectedly heard Henry on the phone on the balcony. The person on the other end was very excited. "Brother, can we really get engaged next month? You're not lying to me, are you?" Henry pinched out the flickering cigarette but with his bare hand and chuckled. "No need to wait until next month. Let's do it the week after next. So you won't like Daniel in the future and will only like me, right?" "Yeah, I like you. He's just a casual fling. Don't worry about him." It was so quiet around me. It was so quiet that the sound of the blood dripping from the wound on my palm onto the floor caught Henry's attention, and he turned around. "Engaged? What does that mean?" Henry glanced at my clenched fist without much reaction. "What it says on the tin." He lit another cigarette. "Just focus on your own business and don't worry about the rest." "How can I not care?" "You. So, who am I to you that you should care? Partner, a friend, or an enemy?" Henry frowned and leaned in, forcefully prying open my bleeding palm. "Matthew, if you really cared about me, would you have chased after me back then and still be clinging to me now? You know very well that, with my status, there's no turning back." Pursed my lips. "Anyway, I will bring you to justice." He blew out a smoke ring, looking as if he was both angry and amused. "So from the moment you stepped in here, it's been the countdown to my death, and the countdown for the whole triangle area. I just wanted to experience what it's like to get married in my limited life and fulfill that girl's wish, to let her have no regrets in her remaining days. Is that not okay, officer?" After that day, Henry still gradually revealed secrets to me and took me around the main family and various branch families to gather information. The only difference was, we became strangers, and he never touched me again. He spent more time with Sophia, while I was busy collecting evidence and passing on secrets all day. Henry was right. The day when they're all captured is also the day when the hourglass of death in the whole triangle area stops. It's only natural that he wanted to fulfill Sophia's wish. What he said to me is also understandable. I have no right to stop him from marrying anyone. After all, that person will definitely never be me. Maybe I should smile and wish them their last bit of happiness. After passing on those secrets to my superiors, I never thought they'd set the date for rounding up the gangsters on Henry's engagement party. All the gangs will be there that day. Then we'll work together from inside and outside to control the scene and catch them all at once. The dispatcher's words left me in a daze for a long time. This day is undoubtedly the best for rounding them up. But that day is Henry's most important day. I struggled between morality and conscience for a long time. In the end, I suppressed my compassion and silently started preparing for the operation. Henry has been coming home late these days and hasn't asked about my progress at all. I guess he never thought I'd take action on his engagement day, just like he never thought I'd go after him relentlessly back then. To make sure everything goes smoothly, I didn't tell him about this. The intense preparations lasted until the day of the engagement. The venue was another huge cruise ship. The Su family doesn't know that there are more than a dozen small yachts lying in ambush nearby, waiting for the right moment to arrest them. The evidence has already been sent back to the headquarters. I boarded the cruise ship with a congratulatory gift. When I passed by Henry, I smiled and said, "Congratulations." He just glanced up indifferently and didn't react much. Sophia, who was on his arm, looked so smug. She took my red envelope and threw it into the sea, then said with a smile, "Thanks." The ceremony was held on the second floor. I didn't dare to go in. I specifically swapped positions with a colleague to wait outside as backup. Everything was going pretty smoothly. It was just when we were taking down the last outer layer that I was so focused on backup. I didn't notice Brother Lucas approaching from the side. In the end, he pressed a gun against my head. "Daniel, you motherfucker. You're really a cop." This was beyond my expectations, but it didn't really matter. We've hit all the targets we needed to. They're all going to be arrested. None of them can escape. Killing me won't do you any good. Lucas gritted his teeth and pressed the gun harder. "You'll be my hostage. I don't believe they won't save you. Then I'll just..." Before the word "die" could leave my lips, a gunshot rang out right next to my ear, and blood splashed all over my face. The gun that was pressed against my head dropped to the ground with a bang. The guy standing across from me, holding a gun and with his white suit stained with blood, was Henry. When Lucas saw him, he immediately turned from angry to happy. Second in command, "He's with the cops. Kill him right now." Henry let out an impatient tisk and pointed the gun at his head again. "Shut up." Lucas was stunned. What stunned him even more was that Henry walked closer step by step, and he sneered as he asked me, "So eager to die, baby. Are you trying to come and die for me soon?" There was also blood on his jaw. I thought it shouldn't be the case. "Did you do something inside beforehand? Otherwise, do you think I really came here to experience someone else's wedding?" Henry let out a self-deprecating laugh. "Matthew, you really don't believe in my love, nor do you trust me. So, are you going to handcuff me now?" I hesitated for a long time and didn't move. The people who jumped onto the deck behind me soon blocked my view and handcuffed him. It was the second time. My heart suddenly clenched, and I could hardly breathe. But when I turned around with red-rimmed eyes, gritting my teeth and about to leave, Henry suddenly grabbed my wrist and whispered something in my ear. The subsequent operations to round up the criminals went smoothly. With Henry as an insider, the members of the Su family were easily caught and sent to prison. Benjamin was also arrested, but fortunately he was not very smart and had always been working at the dock, so he didn't commit any major crimes. On the day of taking the statement, he looked at me with a very complicated expression, but in the end, he gave me a thumbs up and said, "Brother Daniel, you're really good at everything. Well done." Everything has settled down. Someone asked me for my brother's relics. I packed up all the relevant stuff and even stuffed in the precious pen my brother gave me when we were kids. After I fetched them at home, I waited in the police station for someone. Oliver knew who I was waiting for and offered to take me to meet him, but I declined. I waited for him to come out on his own. Before Henry was arrested, he told me, "Live well and wait for me to get out." At that moment, all my suspicions were confirmed, and the stone in my heart finally dropped. All that was left was relief. Luckily, he and I are the same kind of people. On the morning of the 5th day I was waiting here, there was a sudden commotion over in the interrogation room, and they said, "It matches." My heart started pounding so hard it felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. It was not until late afternoon. I was sitting there in a daze, leaning against the cold chair, when suddenly I heard a familiar voice say, "Sweetheart, sorry to keep you waiting, sweetheart." I looked up, and the sunlight streaming in through the cracks was blinding. For a moment, I was in a daze. I stood up, my eyes red, and punched him hard. Henry, was it fun to lie to me so many times? He just let me pound on him. Finally, he grabbed my hands and pressed my head into his chest. Beat me up when we get home, sweetie. End of the main text. Epilogue. Henry's perspective. Matthew and I are kindred spirits. 15 years ago, my parents were killed by this organization. 10 years ago, I insisted on dropping out of school and joined this organization as an informant. The guy who met me then was a fresh-faced newbie who just started working. Due to my special identity and limited access to information, he was the only one who contacted me. I began a decade-long undercover operation. James thought he'd found a great talent on the street. He thought he'd finally found an heir who could protect his daughter and that he could control me, a young man, so he spared no effort in training me. He helped me grow from an inexperienced greenhorn to a mature and steady person, just waiting for the day to take them all down. The difference between me and Matthew is, the only contact I had died on duty 5 years ago. Since then, I've been all alone, and no one can prove my existence. 5 years ago, the time to round up the criminals was far from ripe. I had no choice but to stay undercover until Matthew showed up. Those 3 years were when James sent me out to gain experience. He also handed over quite a few industrial chains to me. The moment I saw Matthew, I felt a strong sense of déjà vu. Later, he didn't give away any signs of suspicion, but I could keenly sense that he was one of us. That familiar tenacity and the courage to face death fearlessly. So I promoted him step by step, hoping to use him to destroy the nest in Zhongqing. Everything went smoothly, until an unexpected incident. He unexpectedly ended up in my bed and became my lover. Something deep in my heart started to grow wildly, like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. On the day of my fake death, actually, James sent someone to pick me up. After all, I was the talent he had cultivated for years. He couldn't bear to cut me off like this. But Matthew chased after me regardless of his life and without caring about any rewards. It didn't matter to him whether he lived or not. All he wanted was to arrest me. I had expected this, but the time wasn't right yet. I couldn't get arrested, so I used the airgun I'd prepared and the blood pack in my arms to fake the death scene. Matthew was really stunned. At that moment, he didn't even dare to look down or touch me, nor did he dare to take my body away. This was well within my expectations. Later, there was a small fire in that grove. I took advantage of the chaos and got rescued. As for Matthew, he was in a daze and was taken back to the police station by others. After my fake death, I once returned to Zhongqing. Matthew was really in a bad state on the day I was about to leave. I just wanted to take a look at him. As a result, I saw him self-harming at home. He was self-harming almost unconsciously. I had someone pretend to be his neighbor and rush in to stop him. But he was such a good actor that he deceived everyone around him. Not even his friend Oliver noticed anything wrong. He gradually stopped answering the door when the neighbors knocked. I had no other choice but to replace his sleeping pills with vitamins when he went out during the day, and occasionally put some stuff in his water cup, a kind of drug that makes people unable to move but still conscious. Sure enough, he thought it was sleep paralysis. I warned him, "If you die, you'll be tortured and retaliated against by me every day." He finally started to be afraid. The frequency of his self-harm decreased. I had someone keep an eye on him and then return to the Triangle area. Later, I heard that he applied to work as an undercover agent here. The danger level here is no less than that in Zhongqing. No one can guarantee that there won't be any accidents. I started punishing him again. I wanted him to be an ordinary person and live an ordinary life, but this time, he remained unmoved. During the time when Matthew first came to the Triangle area, I was sent on a mission by James. I threatened those who had met Matthew at the beginning and forced them out of the organization. No one has ever seen or recognized Matthew. I brought him back to me. I couldn't tell him my identity because there was no solid evidence. Instead of racking my brains to make him believe that I'm one of his kind, it's more convenient to let him know that I want to turn against them. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. On the day of the arrest, I wasn't sure I could find the evidence to prove my identity. Maybe the relics of that public servant didn't mention me at all for the sake of confidentiality. But luckily, eventually, they detected my voice in a recording pen that had been kept for 7 years.